Samuel. The floor and cameras is yours. Have a good listening.
Well, thank you very much, Linnea. That's really a lovely introduction for you. At this point of the episode, I would like to welcome our next guest, which is Nigel Sellar. I've already considered him as a longtime friend and colleague within the FID. So, without much further ado, Nigel, please introduce yourself, please. Thank you.
Hello, Cromwell. If you could see this screen, I'm actually blushing at the moment. Such a warm welcome from Cromwell, good friend, and Danielle, of course, as well. Hello, everybody. Guten Tag, wie geht's, ciao, bonjour, ça va, and everything else. Good day to everybody. My name is Nigel Sellers. I work at the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, the RICS. I am a surveyor by background. I've been surveying for quite a while now, specialising in valuation and real estate. And I work at the RSCS to develop standards in valuation and property globally. So great to be here, and thanks for the opportunity to speak to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. The pleasure is all ours. So, our topic for this pilot is all about transparency. What comes into your mind when you first hear the word transparency? What's the meaning of being transparent on your side?
Thanks, Tom. I took a look at the Oxford Dictionary for this because I just thought, what does it sort of mean? What does it mean to me? So the Oxford Dictionary says it's about openness in decision making, um, and an ethical behaviour, the relationship between practitioners and the masses. And I thought that's pretty much sums up perfectly kind of what I what I sort of personally think about transparency. I think it just underpins. I'm going to come into sort of valuation in a bit, but I think for me it underpins professionalism, and by that I mean being able to trust as a surveyor, the stats that I'm working with, but I think critically as a consumer, if I employ a surveyor, that I can trust that person or that firm is going to be honest with me, they're going to act with integrity, they're going to be competent to do what they say they're going to do and follow that through, and they'll give me a level of service that I and sort of trust and respect. I sort of work with it, and I guess transparency sort of underpins all of that. And then there's a flow that you can understand the journey that the professional takes the consumer on. That when they're asked to undertake an instruction, they say, "Here's what you've asked us to do. Here's how we can help. Here's how we can't help. And here's what we're going to do." And when they get to the answer and private advice, they can sort of look back and say, "Here's how we've got to our answer." I think all of that for me builds into sort of transparency.
Yeah, of course, that's a very good definition, Nigel. Like you touched really on some beautiful words there. Professionalism, integrity, honesty, and trust that we need to foster towards our client. You know? So, in your on your point of view, like, how much does being transparent in our evaluation is needed in our daily professional lives?
Yeah, I think just turning to valuation, it's absolutely critical. It just goes hand in hand. If you don't have transparency, you don't have a valuation you can sort of trust, and you can sort of rely on. And when I talk about valuation, I don't just mean the end answer, about the kind of the number that comes out at the end. It's actually just kind of how you sort of get to that piece, and things about the valuer being really clear about whether they have any sort of something called conflicts of interest in that phrase in English. So, for example, if I want to take a valuation and it's actually my brother's house that I'm valuing, have I been, can I actually provide that valuation really clearly and objectively without being biased towards give my brother a favourable? Have I been clear about any sort of previous relationships I've had with that property which has helped or not with that sort of valuation? Now, I think also increasingly the world that we're living in with increasing governance and transparency, is there real transparency about valuation oversight? So if I'm a practitioner, who am I sort of sense checking my work with to make sure that I'm on the right track with my valuation approach? Is there a regulatory body, the RSS is a regulatory policy for our surveyors, who overlooks kind of the processes of what we do as valuers, and also is there transparency in the standards that I'm following? Am I just doing what I feel is a good idea in terms of process, or is there a clear, a transparent set of standards on doing this type of valuation in this country for this purpose? That there's a clear consistency, and that brings broader transparency and trust in valuations. If everyone's been asked to value the same building, the same property, it's done in the same way, and there's consistency. Um, and I guess sort of more broader than that, there's some themes I think which are really critical about culture, diversity, and language as well. So there's a consistency in language and a consistency about inclusiveness in the profession. Um, and that builds up transparency as well. So it's not a suspicion or feeling from consumers that actually the people that we're engaging with, they're kind of a little cozy club who do it just for themselves and actually not for the benefit of the consumers and society. So I think that all of that sort of feeds in together about transparency as well for me.
Wow, that's all I can say because you talked from the technical aspects of having a regulatory board such as IRCS who controls or oversee the work of our colleagues, and you talk about some important soft skills like or things that are highly personal like culture and consistency and diversity in our profession. This made me remember. I think remember Luke from Netherlands, right? In his
Yeah,
paper in Orlando last year, he was talking about how international standards actually foster um, transparency because the more international standards are set in place, the more trustworthy we become in front of our clients in our society in our community. So we become more prominent and more important with being just transparent in our work. Well, it's really nice. So you work from IRCS. We said that no. So um on your point of view, do you agree with Luke with this kind of perspective, or do you think Peter was saying before that there's a good kind of transparency and bad kind of transparency? So where do we draw the line between those two? How do we decide on what kind of transparency we apply on certain work? Do we still I'm bombarding you with questions, but you can respond,
no,
Nigel.
I
Anytime.
understand that. I
It's
think
just
that's a really good question. So I think we've talked about some general principles already in the last few minutes, Dan. So I think it depends on the nature of the instruction, like what are these specifically been asked to do, and also I think crucially, not something I've touched on yet, is about who's actually asking you for that advice. So valuation advice can be from one end, you've got multinational firms, international pension funds who are very mature, or mature customers who understand the valuation process intimately, perhaps even valuers themselves, and are steeped in knowledge in that area, and they can have a very good professional, challenging conversation about this. At the other end of the spectrum, it could be just a person off the street who's looking to buy a house first time, wants to know the appraisal on their property. They're not perhaps even understand what a valuation is, and also um, the bounds which the valuation is undertaken. So let me give you an example. If you're undertaking a residential property valuation, you use what we call comparable evidence, so similar property, similar area, similar size and condition to help build up that evidence base. But when, say, during the COVID pandemic, property transactions, at least to begin with, when we also had a lockdown, they weren't taking place. So how do valuers build up their opinion of value? They can still do it. They've still got historic evidence. They've still got market indices. But there's a really important point here about explaining to the customer the the reliability of that particular valuation at that point of time. Because the valuation is only an estimate of a professional judgment based on their experience and the evidence available. And there's a lack of evidence available that really needs to be explained, particularly with a customer who's not familiar with valuations of a consumer. It's really important that is there. And I think as we sort of move on, looking at the world of technology and the increasing use of artificial intelligence in valuations, I think transparency is absolutely critical. So, what's the value of this property? It's this $1 billion. Okay, but who put that together? Oh, this AI or this automated valuation model put that together. Okay, do you know how that AVM was built? Do you know what the assumptions are of the AVM? Who put those assumptions in? What evidence was used at the time? Then you're thinking, oh, well, the computer did it. Was there a physical inspection of the property to make sure that's actually there? that the condition that's been assumed is the right condition, that there's been nothing built in the surrounding area which might impact on the property positively or negatively. All those kind of things need to be built into the valuation report. And when you're explaining the valuation to your customer, that sort of comes in. So it's just the qualifications of the valuer. Was it an ABM used? Was it AI? How was that used? Again, depending on the nature of the valuation, whether that's explained in the body of the report or if the client, the customer surveyor follows up with a phone call, their client explains this, or at least it's on file. So, perhaps down the line, if there might be complaints against that surveyor, if that's like go back on their file and say, look, on this day I went to the property, it was these conditions, the site was like this, the building was like this, because things change. By the time valuers are done, the property might have been impacted by something else which wasn't there at the time of the inspection. So that kind of needs to be really transparent what the conditions were of the property at the point in time you inspected and valued. So that was really clear about transparency. But I guess it's come back to you, that's a long rambling answer to your original question. It depends on the subject, who's actually instructing you, and the next day instruction, and how transparent you need to be.
Right, right. And I hope I did not, disclose much of your paper on this one.
It's all good.
Because you were talking about, with AVMs right now in AI, the application of it in the transparency and the ethical conundrum that we are facing with this new kind of technology and evaluation standards. Well, I guess we should wrap this up. So let's go directly to the next question, Nigel. As a young surveyor, how what can you say or what can you suggest advice to other young colleagues of us who are maybe just graduating or trying to find their footing in the industry? If ever they wanted to become a valuer, what can you suggest to them? What can you advise, or how can you convince them to be more transparent in their work?
What's going on? Value my advice is don't do it. No, I'm joking. Please do. Values are critical for society. No, I'm kidding. I think it's an interesting question because I guess if you'd asked me that sort of 4 or 5 years ago, I'd have a very different answer because I've got to recognise that many workplaces now have moved online and are digital. It's great that we can speak internationally like this, but we're not doing this face to face. We're doing this by Zoom and there's Teams, etc. So I think it's really critical whether you're in surveying, whether you're in any other field, that you build your network, you get as much experience as possible. It's evaluation or other fields. So meet people at careers fairs, universities, speak to friends and family who might be in the profession, and just try and get some work experience, see what works for you. And all experience is good. You're at the start of a career, you're not going to find your dream job straight away. You're not going to have your dream employers. I think we're all probably still finding that ourselves.
Yeah.
It's just kind of what works for you and just getting experience. And I think, but as Paul talked at the top of the call about critical, about competence, honesty, integrity, those are the characteristics you need to have in everything you do throughout your career, because that's, as you move through your career, that the technical piece is pretty much a given. And it's more about your ability to make relationships with people, develop those relationships, particularly if you're in a commercial facing role where you're in sort of sell services, your ability to work with people from different backgrounds, different walks of life, and understand different cultures, particularly working overseas, different languages, different ways of working, and being good to be around. So I think that's really critical as well. But so build your network and have fun as well, because if you don't enjoy what you do, then you might as well do something else.
Well, thank you very much, Nigel. I mean, wow, competence, honesty, and integrity. I could not find any other adjectives to describe, young people needs to be, right? So, Nigel, any events you'd like to invite our audience on the next meetings, on the next episodes?
We've got loads of events coming up. The best thing to do would be going to the RICS.org website, rics.org, and click on events there. It's in the process. We recorded this webinar in September 2024. Finalising the finishing touches to our global valuation standards. That's the RSA called Global Red Book, and that'll be published in about a month or so's time. And there'll be some online webinars to help promote the new standard. This links directly in with the international valuation standards that was mentioned before. So there's a lot of free content on the RSS website. All our standards are free. All the standards mentioned about competence and conduct, our red book and some industry specific valuation guidance, and actually how to become a surveyor, how to get the profession. That's all on the RSS website, www.rics.org. So please take a look.
Thank you very much, Nigel. It's really lovely talking to you for today. So we'll see you soon, I guess, in person, online again.
Online in person, look forward to it, guys, and really appreciate the time to chat to you, and hope everyone found that useful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Nigel. Thanks
Thank
again.
you. Thank
See
you.
you soon.
Cheers, guys.